Hi, welcome to your Career Toolkit with me, Pira. I'm trying something slightly different today and a bit more of a vloggy style video to talk about something that we all are quite anxious about, which is redundancy, especially in this economy and this geopolitical situations and the rise of AI. It's a discussion that's coming more and more into my forefront and in my circles. I just really wanted to give you a video to give you peace of mind, think about some steps that you can take to secure yourself if you have got redundancy talks on the horizon or you think it might be coming, and what steps to take if you have been given your redundancy notice. And it's actually based off of a lot of conversations that I'm currently having with friends of mine. I will share anecdotes about what are things that are working for them, and hopefully you can then go off and speak to friends and family and see what fits for you.
This is Future Pira coming in to give you a helpful one-pager on what redundancy is, the common reasons, and some of your main rights during the redundancy process. Feel free to take a screenshot of it. It isn't legal advice. I would advise speaking to a Citizens Advice Bureau or a legal team if you are going through this process and you have the resources to be able to do this. But I thought it would be a handy resource for you to have just to give you the basics of redundancies in the UK.
So one of the things that I always say is everyone's always worried about redundancies, especially when you've put your employment in someone else's hands. One of the risks is that they can have different strategies that might result in you being made redundant. And so one of the big things that I always emphasize, and that's worked for me, is getting insurance. I actually used to, in my early 20s, work for an insurance provider, and they used to actually focus on unions. But obviously this is not financial advice, but one of the things that they imbibed in me, which was quite prudent, is actually sickness or having to take care of a family member or redundancies can strike at any time. So one of the useful things that you can do to protect yourself is get some insurance that covers your bills. If you've got a mortgage, that, or rent. If you are made redundant, then you've got at least 3, 6, 9 months, a year of cover. Usually there's a cooling off period when you get your insurance. You can't claim for 3 months, and then after that you will be able to premium that you have requested for. So I will always try and go for the maximum amount, and there are often providers that you can go on, say comparethemarket.com, to try and find out which premiums work for you, because that will then say, even if you're giving say £100 a month, you know that actually you're not just solely relying on your savings or work to get you through your bills, etc. So that's one of the things. The second thing that I always say, which is what I'm saying to a lot of my friends now, even before the redundancies conversation strike, are you upskilling yourself in AI or cloud-based technologies or whatever it is within your industry? I don't know, say you're in the creative space and animation is taking off, making sure that you're dedicating at least an hour a week to upskill yourselves with certificates or watching webinars where you're learning and teaching yourself something is super, super critical, so that you can actually have the skills that are hot and in demand. The third thing that I would always do is, with these new skills, try and get yourself onto projects which are side of desk to your job, to try and make sure that you get that experience on your CV. It's great to have the theory, but people are often looking for practical experience, so get that nailed in. And the other thing that I would say that's super useful is, if you can't get those projects at work, try and put yourself on Fiverr and try and freelance, because actually what you'll find is that people will take you on based off of just your freelance experience. It doesn't have to be your bread and butter day to day. As long as you have the practical experience, they're willing to take you on. So just getting your insurance policy, which is either a physical policy itself, but also foolproofing yourself for the future, is super, super useful. The other thing that I would also say, excuse me while I start getting ready, my friends have actually been given the conversation with respect to actually facing redundancies themselves, which has been really, really tough on them. So what do you do when you have had that conversation? Really knowing what your rights are, in terms of looking at, actually, every company should try and put you in another role before they press the button and make you redundant. So this is why that upskilling is super important. If you know that there are hot skills in other departments that you should be upskilling yourself in, it's so important that you get these, so that you can then ask to be transferred onto those teams. The other elements that I would also say, and this is ideally if you can do this before you get to this stage is having a conversation and networking with loads of folks in different teams so that people know your skills, they trust you, they like you. If you can show folks that you are a reliable set of hands and that you are eager to learn new jobs and get new experience, they're more likely to take you on if they know that you have been hit by redundancy. So I would always say try and network with folks that are a level or two above you, and also try and reach out to people that you might have worked in different teams or on different projects a few years or months ago, because you just never know what impression you've left on someone. And if you're not in the day-to-day politics of each team, you never know when they might actually need you. So always try, and whilst HR might say, oh, you know, we'll look for a similar role for you, the HR folks and your line manager often won't know the day-to-day intricacies of what's going on in each team. So it's your job, unfortunately, to try and secure or land yourself something. So I would always say, in these situations, really take your job hunt on your own hands, despite what work is saying, and say, hey, I'm going to also, whilst HR is looking for roles and speaking to different teams, I'm going to also leverage my network. So try and do that. So that's internally. The other thing that I would also do is, as soon as you have that conversation, start looking externally, because think about it, the company that's making you redundant for whatever reason, whether it's cuts or savings that they need to make, it's showing to you and me and the outside world that they're having, you know, whether it's cash flow problems or they're looking to expand into different markets, somewhere there's a money issue. And so what you want to be doing is trying to find pastures that are green, that have that opportunity for growth, and that you know you'll flourish in. So what I will say is, looking externally just doubles the chances of you finding a job, right? It's not just based on the company that you're in, but external folks. The other thing that I've done, which I found is super useful, is thinking about who it is that you're going to have this discussion with. Because often I know that it's really nerve-wracking. There's a lot of shame attached to it, which is absolutely ridiculous, because it's nothing that you've done that's causing this issue. It's usually not performance-based. It's usually a business decision that's caused you to be made redundant. And if it is, of course, your own behavior, it's a chance to reflect about what it is that you've done that you can then amend and change going into a new role moving ahead. But often it's not to do with you. And I find that actually telling everyone, it becomes like a gossip fest at most companies. What I would recommend that you do is speak to strategic people. A lot of times people often come to me to ask me for help within their job search because they know that I'll be discreet. So that's number one. But second of all, I've worked for 2 to 3 different recruitment agencies. I'm still very much in touch with those folks. I still work within the hiring space, involved in hiring, whether that be at my company or giving advice on an exec level for a lot of organizations. So a lot of folks know that I'm still tapped into networks that can allow them to also find jobs. So really be strategic about who it is that you reach out to. Don't speak to everyone, because then it becomes just a gossip fest. And then you just become super, super nervous about coming into work, because you know that people are being like, oh, this person's made redundant, and you're not in your solution area. So this is where one of my friends who's currently looking for a visa has reached out to me, and I put her in touch with agencies that specialize in getting folks sponsorships so that she can go off and do that. I've also given her organizations off the government website within the UK to reach out to certain companies that I know for a fact hire folks that need sponsorships. So this is why it's super important that you go to someone who is well versed within this space, knows the lay of the land, because you don't just want to be going out as a free-for-all for everyone, because you're just going to be inundated whilst also applying for jobs with advice that might not be relevant. So you want to be really targeted about your strategy that you take. I'm just going to go off and do my eyeliner before I come back to the next tip. Right, now that we're back from that, the other thing that I've seen that my friends have done really well, or my network have done really well, is following up with the folks that I have suggested to them. A lot of times I give people leads and they might have one conversation with them and a ping, and then they just say, oh, you know, the person hasn't got back to me, so I'm not going to nag them. My friends have been really strategic about how and when and who they message. So one of my friends who's looking for a sponsorship was reaching out to someone within EY, and he was on holiday. And I had mentioned to her, hey, you know, so-and-so is on holiday, but they're super keen. to help you out. And so she said, I am just not going to rush him whilst he's on holiday, even though I'm super keen to get a role. I want him to rest, but also be able to have the time to get back to me properly. So I'm going to reach out to him when he's back from holiday, which was, I think, a week and a half later. She'd done that. She'd put in 10 minutes into his diary because she'd got his email address from me. They jumped onto Teams. And because she was so proactive and she'd only asked for a little bit of time, which was 10 minutes, he was then able to say, hey, send me your CV. Having reviewed it on the call, I will help you make some tweaks to it. And I've got X and Y, Z role that I've seen on our internal website, and I'll refer you to that. And I thought that that was such a good way of networking, but also leveraging the folks my friend, let's call her Sarah for this instant, had actually received. And she was also constantly good at following up and saying, thank you so much for referring me. Let me know if you hear anything. I'll get back to you in 2 weeks' time. In 2 weeks' time, guess what? She reached out to the contact at EY and said, hey, have you heard anything? No pressure if you haven't, but it'd be good if you could trace up. He also traced up, and now getting to that stage where fingers crossed she can either get an interview, and if not, feedback at least from the hiring manager or recruiter about why they haven't gone ahead with her. So this is why it's so important. Even rejections can be redirections. You just need to get the data points about what you can change about your CV, what you can do differently, because you never know, that vacancy might come up again in a month's time because people have rejected the role or have decided to stay on within their current company. So that is a really crucial data point in your long run game of job hunting. So I would say making sure that you are super clear with your communication, following up at the right time, reaching out at the right time is so important. And also by signaling to folks that you will get back to them in a couple of weeks' time. When you do reach out, no one's going to be affronted by it, and they're not going to think that you're nagging them. So these are some of the things that I think are super useful in helping with the job hunt. The other thing that I would note that has been really effective is I've had another incident or 2 incidents of where people have had redundancy talks internally within the organization that I've been helping out with. And the best thing to do is talk to someone or 1 or 2 influential people within your organization that have a good opinion of you, who can then influence other teams. So for example, you're working at team A, you know you're going to be made redundant, reach out to someone that you trust within team B who carries good favor with, say, team C and D, who may or may not have vacancies. But if that person, your contact from team B, is able to influence people in team C and D to take you on and say, hey, I know this individual who's in team A who's being potentially made redundant, but they've got this and this and this skill. We have these gaps in there. Why don't you take them on or interview them? These are the type of people that you want to have as advocates for you. It's much easier when you're working within an organization to get hired into a different team because your contract's already there. People already know you, you know the lay of the land, you know the policies and procedures. So there's already goodwill in that organization, or you know that your skill set is not as relevant for the organization's growth in that specific area. So it's so important that you have people, team B, who are super connectors, as they say, that are well-networked individuals that will take your story in the discretion that it's meant to, and then be able to connect those dots for you. So I hope this video has been useful. It's a lot more relaxed than my videos I tend to do, but I really felt compelled to share this stuff with you because I know that it can be a real daunting time for lots of folks, and they're just not sure within this redundancy space what to do, because I don't think it's spoken about and it's seen as taboo, because often people think, oh, it's my own personal performance, or people will think I'm not worthy of getting hired into a different team or a different organization. So these are some real practical steps that you can take moving forward or in your current organization to make sure that you're maximizing your own job security and being able to pay your own bills and paying your way forward, whether it's with your organization or you take that time out to then job hunt elsewhere. If you've liked this video, please subscribe for more. I know someone who's going through redundancy or potentially might be facing it, please share this video with them. As I say, there's not much material out there, and there are so many practical steps that you can do to secure yourself currently and your future, and also foolproof your career hunt. So as I say, like, share and subscribe, and I'll make even more content like this. And also let me know if you've liked this more relaxed style of video, and I'll be sure to make more of it. Thank you so much for your time. Bye.